That's the thing that I want to underline here. This is how you build a music career for yourself as an artist, for your band, that has some predictability in it, that I can hit my numbers that I want to hit. If I know I need to make X dollar figure to pay the bills, you've got levers that you can pull to do that. And you can do that predictably, as opposed to just like, okay, I hope my streaming revenue keeps up.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by Entrepreneur.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to the Creative Juice podcast. I'm your host, Jack McCarthy. With me is your other host, my amazing co-pilot, Circa. Cirque, what's up, dude?
Not a whole lot, dude. Just working in work mode.
We're coming through the tail of Cyber Week here. I hope you all in the US had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday if you celebrated. And for everybody else, I hope you had an amazing Thursday last week and an awesome kickoff to Black Friday. Hopefully everybody's running amazing sales promotions right now. We're going to be talking a little bit about selling in this episode, but in particular, we're going to be talking about the frameworks that we use at our agency, IndieX, to grow any artist business, to give you guys some insights into the things that you can look at in your own artist business or the artists or bands that you work with, and maybe, just maybe, learn something, implement it into your own business. And if you're interested in working with us at the agency on doing this kind of stuff, maybe we can talk to you. It would be cool, but we wanted to introduce some ideas that would hopefully give you a picture of what you can be looking at in your own artist business to help it grow. I'm looking forward to it.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's get it.
Sweet. Well, let's get right into it then. Like I said, the whole topic of this episode is how to grow any artist business. This kind of walks us through the process that we use at our agency to look at the areas of opportunity for an artist or a band, a creative business, and help it grow. So this episode kind of assumes that you have a business, something that's making you some money. I think that that's a good caveat to make here. If you've just been, releasing music and you're not really in a place where you're making any money right yet, some of these frameworks don't necessarily apply to you yet, but they will, which is cool. But I want to make that disclaimer right up front here. This is for artists that have a business, as opposed to artists that are in the process of getting a business kind of rolling. Well, let's dive into it. Step number one, the first thing that we do when we're working with a new client at our agency is we undergo a series of audits. And actually, this is really interesting. Maybe we can talk about the kind of genealogy of this concept and really where we started doing it at IndieX, because it was probably about a year or so into my tenure at IndieX where we started really systematizing that process and making it something that was usable sort of across the board for our roster of clients and prospective clients that we were working with. But there's two main areas of focus that we dive into, and that's number one, auditing your fan base, and number two, then auditing your marketing. So when I say auditing your fan base, the main things that we're looking at is we're looking to see, if you're looking at your business and you're wondering, how can I grow? You first want to look at your audience and you want to say, first, how many people are kind of orbiting you from what you can see online? What does your followers list look like? What do your warm audiences look like? The people that you can retarget? What does all of that look like? How many people are watching your videos? Those are the people that are orbiting you. Call them, introduction stage or education stage fans. You look at them, look to see then who has signed up to connect with you and stay in communication with you. Those are typically like your text list or your email list subscribers. And then you're looking to see who's bought from you and who's bought from you repeatedly. And this includes people that have bought from you concert tickets, tickets to shows. If you can contact them, they're customers. You're looking to see kinds of those segments of fans. That's your audience audit. You want to know how many people are in those buckets. And that's really helpful to know before you even start to decide to look at and audit what's going on in your marketing. You want to get a sense of what your actual baseline is in terms of people. How many people have moved through the customer journey of your artist business?
Yeah. I think so many artists don't really have a handle on this, from those who have just barely interacted with you all the way down to like customers. If you ask them offhand, oftentimes artists just won't have these kinds of numbers.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, this is kind of true of any business, like the idea of knowing your numbers. And this is what it means. This is one of the things that it means to know your numbers.
Yeah, and it's super important because like you really don't know where your opportunities exist until you understand and can break down your sphere of influence in this way.
For sure, yeah. And I mean, just to shed some light on this, it's crazy to me how many artists or teams that I talk to throughout the course of a year, let's say, that have a massive list of contacts they really haven't done anything with. And I've mentioned this on the show before, but it's crazy, especially at like the sort of household name level artists. They've got these massive lists of contacts, many times contacts that are also customers, people that have bought something or bought something repeatedly that there's just nothing happening with. And it's like, okay, well, we don't really know anything about that list of people then if we didn't even really know that it existed. It's
Yeah.
wild, but that's very, very common. So it puts you ahead of the game to know those numbers and to start diving into what they are. If you can get a sense of, for example, the size of your customer list, people who have bought from you even just once versus the number of people who have bought from you repeatedly, light starts to get shed on an opportunity there to say, okay, well, if these people bought from me once, they're definitely likely to buy from me again. And that can put growth pressure on your business very, very rapidly.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you're an indie and you don't actually have customers yet. So maybe that's a bit alien to you, but so often, and this happens in regular businesses too, is like by not having a handle on your existing customers and how many things they purchased and their LTV, you can't really know where you should focus because sometimes you might have tons of customers, but very few repeat sales. And then it's like, okay, let's get you some repeat buying going on. On the converse side, maybe you're successfully ascending customers and you're getting them to come back, but you just don't have enough of them. And we really can't know what to do until we know those numbers.
Right. For sure. So that's kind of step one here. When we talk about growing an artist business, that's one of the first and best things you can do. And again, like we said, this is kind of true of any kind of business too, which is cool. This is kind of maybe a little bit of a master class in growing businesses.
Yeah.
That wasn't the intention. This is about artist businesses, but we'll try our best to stay on track. But that's true of any business. So that's step number one. Step number two, audit your marketing. You want to know what's been happening in your marketing over the last quarter, over the last 2 quarters, over the last year. What's been going on? What things have you been focusing on? A lot of times when we audit the marketing of artists, depending on where they're at and what their audiences are looking like, sometimes their marketing is actually lagging behind their audiences. And what I mean by that is it's lagging behind their audiences in the idea that they've got fans, they've got customers, maybe they've got repeat customers, but the only thing they've been focusing on in their marketing is growing more, people who are just orbiting them, aware of them. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's lopsided if it's the only thing that you're doing, given what you know about your fan base. And conversely, the same can be true for an artist that, really has nobody orbiting them, but they've got maybe a tiny, tiny little small list of customers and they continue to try to milk it for all that it's worth, selling to them the same products or the same offers over and over and over again and wondering why it's not working. You can see how there might be a bottleneck there in that you probably just need more people at the top. You need to be releasing more music. You need to be promoting that music and that content around that music to get more people in your kind of ecosystem. So you want to know what's going on in your marketing. What's the stuff that you've been focusing on? One thing that we come across a lot of times when we audit the marketing that artists and bands are doing is, like I said, sometimes there's lopsided efforts going on, or sometimes there's just a weak area, right? A lot of times there's a lot of top of funnel going on. We did an episode a while back in the summer. We were auditing the marketing of Billboard Hot 100 artists. And what was really interesting was these are artists with massive audiences in a lot of different ways. We can kind of make some safe assumptions about their subscribers and their customers based on their top of funnel audiences, the people that are orbiting them, like we talked about. We can make some assumptions, some safe assumptions about the size of their customer base. But what was interesting was on the marketing front, when we audited that, most of their focus was shifted, lopsided towards top of funnel. And this is something that we see gaps in all the time. There might be a little bit of an emphasis on customer creation, on selling, on even tour promotion. It's wild the lack of effort that goes on with something as normal in an artist cycle as touring. The tour marketing efforts that you see out there are kind of abysmal. And that's just one example of a hole that you might see in your marketing.
Yeah, basically, the reason our agency exists even is that there is often a disparity between what you might intuit about an artist's revenue based on those top of funnel metrics and the reality. And yeah, like tour marketing, there's a big reason why the whole industry, like there's not a single artist you can name that's like doing big tours that isn't linked up with a larger entity and they're getting guarantees on the front end. I went over this recently, but like, in the music industry, there's business to business. And you would think ticket selling is like artist to fan, but it's not. It's usually a gigantic business that's giving the artist a performance guarantee and then taking care of that themselves. And so, yeah, like tour marketing is a woefully underdone practice.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I think we saw a shift, a big shift, really, starting in 2020. We started to see a big shift, not just related to the fact that artists couldn't tour, but definitely due in part to some of that. A big shift in attention towards online selling, both of just e-commerce merch, the stuff that we love to do. And at that time, also, it was online experiences, live streams, paid online festivals and things like that. And one thing that I am thankful for that insane period of time in the world was that shift. It kind of sped up what we've been talking about in a lot of ways, or at least put a spotlight on it for a minute here before things shifted back to quote unquote normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, oftentimes big events like that, they just serve to consolidate the power in industries. It's not as if Live Nation and Ticketmaster hurt nearly as much as the average artist that relies heavily on touring.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, even what we were seeing going on the record label side of things at that time, hearing that labels were just scooping up artists and taking big bets, knowing that, one or two of those bets would pay off. It was like venture capital a little bit,
Yeah, for sure.
But that's just kind of an overview of the process of auditing your marketing. You want to see what's going on to kind of give it to you guys in simple, like the simplest possible terms that I can. The stuff that we look at is, I mentioned the different types of fans that you should be auditing in your audiences, right? People who are orbiting you, engaging with you, communicating with you, and buying from you again, right? You want to see what's going on in your marketing that could affect all five of those stages. Is there something happening, or was there something happening at the date that you're looking at things and kind of putting magnifying glass up against your business? What's been going on to affect change in those areas? And if nothing, then you need to dig a little bit deeper and figure out why. And if that's an area of opportunity, that's how you look for the low hanging fruit in your marketing. It's those two audit pieces kind of combined here.
Yeah, it's also like it can be pretty linear where like, oftentimes if we see that an artist isn't really collecting email addresses and they don't have customers, then it might be the case that like, okay, well, you have a lot of top of funnel here. We need to convert that into owned media before we start generating customers because it's a huge risk. Or if you have tons of customers, then you, by direct relation, have lots of email subscribers. But if you don't have repeat customers, and it's like, all right, that's where we need to focus. But like kind of the later ones can't move until the earlier ones do.
That's a really good point, and it's I think a helpful segue into the next piece of this kind of framework, which is starting to build offers to facilitate that process. Once you've audited your audiences and audited your marketing, usually the next thing that you're doing in this process is building free and paid offers. The free offers are used to facilitate movement from the awareness stages, the introduction education stages, people that are orbiting you, It's to move them into a state where you can communicate with them and communicate with them quickly, and ideally moving them rapidly towards monetization. The paid offers are what monetizes the attention that you've captured. So you're building free offers to capture attention that you've created, and then you're building paid offers to monetize the attention that you've captured. It's exactly linear like that. It doesn't always happen perfectly linearly in time, but it can happen pretty quickly, especially if you've got a lot of top of funnel going on. And to share an example, back in 2021, we started working with an artist at the agency back in the summer of 2021. They had an album release coming up, and we were talking with them and their management. Super, super cool people, very tuned in digitally, very active. They had a great online store with great products, but they really weren't doing a whole lot to market it. There was a big hole there. Apart from, social posts when merch drops happened, there really wasn't too much going on there. And they made the majority of the money in their business passively, I'll call it, through Spotify or streaming in general was where they made the majority of their revenue. And we said, you're missing a whole lot of money. You're leaving a whole bunch of money on the table here. So let's pick it up. And the first thing that we did was we took a look at their audiences and we saw, okay, you've got millions of followers across your socials, and you've got a customer list of I think it was about 9,000 people, maybe 10,000 people, a customer list. And then there was this big gap where there were fans orbiting them, customer list, but no subscribers, no bridge, right? Nothing to bridge those people. And that wasn't happening. So it was just like, okay, hope that these people that are orbiting you just go straight to becoming a customer. We made a super simple free offer at the time, which was ahead of the album launch. There was a merch drop. We made a super simple early access offer. Get early access to the thing that I'm about to drop. It was going to drop a week later. A simple series of content that went along with that nurtured those people towards the sale. We signed up about 25,000 people to their email list within 2 weeks, and from that massive warm audience that they had. And then the merch drop happened, and it created a flood of cash into their business that otherwise wouldn't have been there because we didn't have those people to directly reach out to. And it created this sort of omni-channel marketing opportunity that they didn't have before, because all they really had was social media followers and customers to market to, and they weren't doing a great job of marketing to their customers. I'm getting in the weeds here, but hopefully that gives you a sense of what we're talking about when it means to build offers, both free and paid.
Yeah, I think like a great way to think about offers is that they are vehicles. They transport people in your business, fans, from one stage of awareness or relationship to another. And literally, like, I would go so far as to say that, like, all transport between these levels of awareness or levels of relationship that don't occur because of an offer that was made are incidental and unreliable.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I'll scream that from the rooftops forever. I'm so glad you said that. No, that's so true. The more you can be intentional about this kind of stuff, I call it, when I'm talking to artists and their teams, I call it active monetization or active marketing. Because the way the music industry looks at marketing so often is that sort of incidental, I hate the word passive, but it's truly passive in the sense that, like, I'm not calling it passive income or passive revenue. It's passive in that you're not doing anything and you're just hoping that it's going to continue to go the way that it is. It's not active in that you're taking a part in doing something in your business to push growth, to pressure growth.
Yeah, you could really boil down a lot of what we do is just creating offers to facilitate that movement where it needs to occur. So the auditing process is all about understanding where there's blockages. Where are people not transporting over to the next stage? And then the creation of a compelling offer frees up that blockage. And now we can get free movement between those stages.
For sure. A while back, probably about a year and a half ago, Ed and I did an episode 224, where we talked about creating irresistible offers and how you can do it in 10 minutes, which is maybe a little hyperbolic, but it was fun. We'll make sure to link to that in the show notes so that you guys can get go a little bit deeper on offer creation and what it means to include elements like scarcity and urgency, and how to make offers exclusive to different types of fans or different subsets of your fan base, because that's all the kind of stuff that you want to be doing to make your offers more compelling and more valuable. But once you start building these offers, what you want to do is you want to start to make them. You want to get them out there to your fans in as many ways and as frequently as you can. And that means posting on social media frequently. That means emailing and texting your fans frequently. And that means emailing and texting your customers, both new and old, frequently, to get them moving to those next stages like Cirque was talking about. That looks like getting your social media following to raise their hand and want to communicate with you, get onto your list. That looks like those new subscribers becoming customers for the very first time, maybe for an easy, no-brainer kind of sales offer, something that might not make you a ton of money, but will definitely get them over the fence and ready to buy again, and then get them buying again over and over and over again. And that's how you start to build a business. You build this into a process that you do over time. And one of the big things that we do with a lot of our artists and their teams is once they kind of take their first swing at this and it works for them, sometimes it's a couple swings. It's not perfect the first go around. Not every artist gets it perfect on day one that they're trying this sort of thing. But once you work out a system that's working for you and you start to figure out what kind of offers resonate with your fans and what kind of cadence you want to make them in, then you build a marketing calendar around it. And that's kind of how you have always on sort of marketing that goes all year round. And that fits in to the milestones that you've got going with the rest of your artist and creative career, whether that's dropping music or releasing an EP or an album or going on tour. These other things that are often ignored in your digital marketing then just become part of the system that you're building your business around. And that's the stuff that becomes active. You're always trying to build upon. Each time you're doing it, it's growing the whole system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's it. It seems simple. It's definitely not as simple as we made it sound here today, but the framework is simple. The implementation takes time and it takes effort. And it's definitely not for the faint of heart, but the rewards that you can reap from it as far as actually growing a business in a way that's predictable. And I think that's the thing that I want to underline here. This is how you build a music career for yourself as an artist, for your band, that has some predictability in it, that I can hit my numbers that I want to hit. If I know I need to make X dollar figure to pay the bills, you've got levers that you can pull to do that. And you can do that predictably, as opposed to just like, okay, I hope my streaming revenue keeps up,
100%. Yeah. And especially if you're an artist with some momentum, you cannot know which offers you need to create until you know what your sort of numbers are here, where your fan base exists in these different stages. And then literally the second you know that, you can begin creating offers. And if you have this momentum at the front end, you can very quickly start generating revenue from your artist career that you otherwise had not anticipated would come. If you're looking at the streaming revenues that you get from that momentum compared to what could happen if you, in a series of months, you're just boom, 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 unlocking new stages of relationship with your fans, you can quickly change the sort of income picture for your career.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And again, this is like stuff that's true of any business, but it's just not talked about a lot in music circles. And I think it's really useful for artists and their teams, especially managers. If you're a manager and you're listening to this, I hope some of this sinks in and hits home, because it really is the quickest path. The steps that we kind of outlined here, in my opinion and experience, are the quickest path to building a business that has some, again, predictability, activity that you can control. I think that's what any smart business owner should want. They should be able to be able to know their numbers and know what they can do to affect those numbers. And then it's just not about hoping and praying or, trying to get the best deal. And that's where the music industry so often looks. They look to, well, if I can just get, this streaming thing to tick and hope and pray that it happens, or I get on the right playlist or whatever. That's not going to work forever. You can't constantly be hoping for that. It's just not going to work. Or getting the best deal. How about leverage? We could talk about that forever. How the steps that you're taking here build leverage for you that you can take into deals.
Yeah. I mean, no label or management team out there is expecting you to come to the table with, knowing your numbers this rigidly and being able to explain how you're able to tour so well or how you're able to bring in so much income. And it really paints the picture of like, I don't need you, or, what can you do for me?
Right. It levels the playing field, in a way that I think every creative person deserves to have for themselves and for their business. That way you can come to the table and it can be true partnerships and not sort of the misshapen sort of deals that we often see in the industry. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys dug kind of getting into our heads a little bit and how the process and framework that we apply to the artists that we work with at the agency happen and how they function and how they fit into creatively what you're doing as well. It's not just something that's off to the side of being an artist. It's something that's intertwined with it. You fit it all together with, like I said, your releases, your music video drops, your touring, that kind of all happens together. And that makes everything that you're doing connected and feel connected to your fans, which is super important to make it effective. And it makes you appear to have a really cohesive brand, which I think at the end of the day, everybody wants.
Yeah, for sure.
So I hope you guys dug this. Maybe we'll dig into more of this stuff in future episodes of Creative Juice. Let us know if you liked it. If you like this kind of stuff, leave us a review and let us know. If there's any topics that you'd like to hear us talk about, leave us a review and let us know. It also helps us get the podcast out to more people. So we really appreciate you guys listening. And if you're an artist that's got a following and got a business that you've been building and maybe you need some help, we'd love to hear from you at IndieX. We'll leave a link in the show notes. We've got some slots opening up at the agency in the next few weeks and months here as we go into 2024. So we'd love to hear from you and talk from you. But until next time, we'll catch you guys later on Creative Juice. Peace.
East Coast, West Coast.